Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a really strong team for the Element Remix Cup in Seal, Dupeter and Shadow Vulpix. The way the team works is you have Seal on the lead and then two Pokemon in the back that are good against grass, and also it's an ABB team where you use Dupeter as a safe swap to lure out the Rock Throw user or the Litwick so Vulpix doesn't have to see it, and then you can take care of it with Seal. So you at some point, if you're in a neutral lead, have to swap out into the Dupeter to lure out those Pokemon. This team worked very well for me. I went 13-2 for the second day in a row. Let's take a look at the battles. Going into the first game, we lead into Wooper. Generally a good lead for Seal, but water types on the lead can be very tricky to deal with because Vulpix really doesn't want to see them, so we do need to take out the Wooper with the Seal, but also we need to preserve some of Seal so we can swap into the Dupeter to lure out the Litwick or the Slugma or something like that Vulpix doesn't want to see. So we do kind of need to preserve Seal. We don't, however, need to preserve health and Seal. If we can come out of this with energy instead of health, that's actually also fine. I would say you should go double Aqua Tail because you do make it to 2 Aqua Tails before Wooper makes it to 3 moves. But as we go for the Icy Wind, 3 Body Slams from the Wooper is not quite enough to take out the Seal, so we can save an Aqua Tail, bring in the Dupeter to try and lure out the Litwick, Slugma, those types of Pokemon. And because we still have that Aqua Tail sword, if they bring one of those Pokemon in, Dupeter will be able to bring them low enough or into a range where Seal can handle them afterwards with the Aqua Tail. They don't have any of those Pokemon. Instead, they bring in a Bulbasaur, throw after 6, meaning it can only be a Seed Bomb. It takes 7 for the Sludge Bomb, 6-6-5 for the Seed Bomb, 7-6 for the Sludge Bomb. We can make it to 1 Bubble Beam. They do shield it up. We made it to the Mirror Coat, baited with the Bubble Beam because I was really expecting the shield, and then we make it to another Bubble Beam. I was really not expecting the shield the second time around because we weren't at the Mirror Court, but we grabbed both shields. Also, if we landed that Bubble Beam, we would have been able to farm the Bulbasaur down easier. As it is, we have to shield up the Sludge Bomb, of course, even though it is double debuffed, it would still hurt a lot. And then I make it to another charge move. If I counted correctly, they should only be at the Seed Bomb, so we can let it go and then farm them down with Vulpix. In the back, they have a Seal. They try to catch on a Wooper unsuccessfully. We make it to back-to-back Body Slam. We still have an Aqua Tail stored on the Seal, so we throw the first Body Slam, go for 2 more quick attacks, throw the second Body Slam. We can make it to a third Body Slam as well because we have a shield, but we can also just swap into the Seal, go for the Aqua Tail. This will also be very close to taking out the Seal. If it doesn't take out the Seal, it does take out the Seal with 1 HP. Next game, lead into a Slugma. Very good lead. This is exactly where we want to see it. They're actually staying in with the Slugma, and then they swap into a Lotad. We swap into Vulpix, and because we got in a little bit of lick damage, we should be able to win this in all even shield scenarios. Vulpix, Shadow Vulpix will be able to make it to 3 moves against Lotad, but if they shield the first 2 and then go for a Bubble Beam, which Vulpix will of course have to shield, the third Weather Ball might not be enough to take out the Lotad. But as they no shield the first one, we can just shield up the Bubble Beam and then farm them all the way down before they get the chance to farm us down. We come up with a lot of energy, and even though we are debuffed, this Body Slam will still do a lot of damage to the very squishy Slugma, so they do have to shield up at least one of them. They let the second one go here, does big damage. We can bring in the Seal before the Switch Timer comes up to farm them down. They bring in Oddish afterwards. We go for the Icy Wind. This absolutely has to be shielded. And of course, we're running into Grasshole this was actually my first game. I didn't want to showcase Grasshole in the very first game, but yeah, we do win that game. In the next game, lead into another Wooper. Good lead. I do think that I played correct this time around. So they go for 1 Body Slam, Wooper, of course, being absolutely spammy as all hell. And then they bring in an Infestation Dupeter. And fun fact about Infestation Dupeter, Dupeter doesn't really do any damage with its charge moves because both Mirror Coat and Bubble Beam are just absolutely terrible charge moves. So you really need, like, what Dupeter uses to do any damage is its fast moves. So using Infestation, which is a high energy generating move, instead of a fast move that does a lot of damage, really doesn't work for Dupeter, making Bug Bite Dupeter a very good counter to Infestation Dupeter. So I definitely think you want to use Bug Bite as we bring in the Bug Bite Dupeter, and we just take out the Dupeter, no real problem. Back in comes the Wooper. I want to farm up to right before they make it to the Body Slam. As I've said plenty of times in my videos, people are not the best at counting 1-turn moves, so I want to make it as difficult as possible for them. As they bring in a Litleo, we swap into the Vulpix. They will make it to a Crunch, And this will do about 62%. I don't know my Little Cup matchups as well as I know my Great League matchups, of course, which is also why I'm incapable of making this undercharge. Simply not knowing how much this Body Slam would do. Try to go for the undercharge, it still does too much damage. But we still come out with a Body Slam for the Wooper, which at this point will bring them very low, or they have to shield it up, and then they can overfarm, go for a move right before we make it to the Body Slam. Nice counting by my opponent. But we still have a lot of HP left on our back to Pokemon. Bringing the Jupiter to get a debuff. Thinking that I have energy on my seal. So if they shield up the Bubble Beam, great. Then we can just go for the Aqua Tails. If they no shield, we have too much fast move pressure. So we can just fast move them all the way down. Go for the Bubble Beam. Doesn't really do all that much damage. But then we can start doing Bug Bites. And they have to throw a move at the Jupiter in order to take it out. And then we can also start just doing lick damage with the seal. I want to call this Dugong because I'm not really used to using seals, but yeah. Next game, lead into a Vulpix. Very good lead for seal. I was very lucky with the amount of fire types I saw in the lead. Not gonna lie, that might have contributed to me having a very positive record. As they go for a Body Slam before swapping out. They try to catch a move, I think, and then they swap into a Jupiter. The way I handle the Jupiter safe swap is I go for an Icy Wind. Then I do some more lick damage, or I might just swap out. But as long as you do some lick damage, go for the Icy Wind, you can bring in the Jupiter and then just farm their Jupiter all the way down. Because of the debuff with the Icy Wind, this Miracle does even less damage. And then we can just farm them all the way down, come up with a lot of energy. And this energy is going to be very valuable because they let a fire type. So we can farm them all the way down here. They go for a Bubble Beam, realizing that a Miracle is not enough. So they would rather get the attack debuff, I think. But then they're going to bring back in the Vulpix. We can start unloading these Bubble Beams. And even though we are debuffed, these are super effective. They do some damage. Bubble Beam, as I say, is an absolutely terrible move as we go up to right before they make it to the next move. They did overfarm by 1, so it's 5-4 for the Vulpix. And then they have to throw a move at my Jupiter if they don't want to take another one. I might even be able to bug bite them down. But yeah, they go for a move, meaning they should be 2 away from the next one. Then we bring in the seal. They bring in a Chikorita. We're up a shield. If you're ever seeing a Shadow Chikorita on the safe swap, you want to swap into Jupiter. Because Shadow Chikorita up 1 Vine Whip actually beats Shadow Vulpix. If Shadow Vulpix is using a Quick Attack, which mine is, in the 2-shield scenario. But as we're up a shield, this should not be a problem. We can go for 1 Weather Ball, then shield up the second Body Slam. We don't even have to shield this up. We know that the Vulpix in the back is very low and it won't be able to get to a charge move. So we can't just go for this Weather Ball without overfarming. And then the Vulpix comes back in and we can just Quick Attack it down. And that is another very good game. Into the next game, lead into a Jupiter. We have 3 relatively neutral matchups, which is why I don't mind just taking 1 charge move on my seal and then swapping out, because of course we want to see if there's a Slugma or a Litwick or that water type with a rock throw move as that one, Clauncher. Yes, we want to see if that's in the back. We do lure out the Clauncher. I throw on horrible timing. I don't really know what I was thinking in this game, but we make it to the Mirror Code, doing big damage, forcing them into throwing some energy as well to take out Jupiter, and now we can take care of this Clauncher with the seal, and Vulpix doesn't have to see it. We farm the Clauncher all the way down. It's not the quickest move. I think it's not Rock Throw, it's Smackdown. So yeah, Rock fast move users, I guess, are the ones we're luring out. Go for the Aqua Tail into the Jupiter, actually shield it, and then I want them, because last time they threw immediately, they've been throwing all their moves immediately, so I'm expecting them to go for the Bubble Beam immediately as well, so we can take it, clear the debuffs by swapping into the Vulpix. In the back there is another, not Rock type, but Rock Throw user. Go for the Body Slam because they have to shield, because otherwise we would have been able to farm them down afterwards. We can make it to the Aqua Tail as well on the Slugma. This will take out the Slugma, and now this is going to come down to if 1 Aqua Tail and the licks are enough to take out this Jupiter before they get to take us out with Bug Bites. Aqua Tail and Icy Wind do the exact same amount of damage, and you don't get the attack. The fast moves from Jupiter is not doing any less damage after only 1 Icy Wind. You need to land 3, I think. Next game, lead into another Vulpix. Very good lead. They go for a Body Slam, and then I anticipate they're going to try to swap out after this because it is a bad matchup for them. They try to catch a move on the Jupiter. Same procedure as last time. We're going to go for the Icy Wind, and then we're going to swap into the Jupiter. I think I'm going to farm up to an Aqua Tail before swapping. Farm up to almost an Aqua Tail, then bring in the Jupiter. And then they can start unloading some energy, but because we have gotten the debuff, it just doesn't matter. We're going to be able to come out of this with a lot of energy on Jupiter. As they realize once again, Another mirror coat is not going to be enough to put me in bug bite range, so they would rather get the attack drop, I think, or they're just baiting. Anyways, we get the full farm down, we come out with a lot of energy to threaten the Vulpix in the back, unless they bring something else in. They do actually bring something else in. It's a wing attack using water type. Wait, Ducklet is not part of this. Oh, it's Quaxly. We can make it to 1 mirror coat and also a bubble beam. And then I'm thinking, I could get my seal onto the Vulpix, which might seem like the correct play, but then I'm getting my Vulpix onto Quaxly. I don't really care if I'm getting seal onto Quaxly, Vulpix onto Vulpix, or if I'm getting seal onto Vulpix and Vulpix onto Quaxly. Because it's a neutral matchup plus a bad, like 2 neutral matchups, or a very good and a very bad. So I don't really need to let myself get farmed down. So actually bring back in the seal here, go for the Aqua Tail, really not expecting my opponent to have kept track of my energy, but they just no-shield the Aqua Tail, then they save the energy on Quaxly, bring in the Vulpix to take me out. And I'm thinking at this point, the Vulpix is almost dry if I remember correctly. So we can bring in our own Vulpix. The Quaxly does have a move stored, which is a move that I want to shield. So I have to save 1 shield, but it's also so low that it won't be able to make it to 2 moves. So as long as I save 1 move for the Quaxly, I can just quick attack everything down. I have to let this go because the Quaxly has liquidation and the body slam obviously does less damage. We take the body slam, Vulpix can live it. They make it to 1 move with the Quaxly. It's only an aerial ace, but they can't make it to another one. So we quick attack down the entire team with Vulpix. In the next game, a bit of an awkward lead into a seal. The thing is, you really want to swap out at some point to see if there's any of the ones that I've mentioned so far in the back. But also you don't want to swap out when the seal is too healthy, because you don't want the Vulpix on a very healthy seal. So you want to bring the seal into a range where the Vulpix can potentially handle it as they go for an icy wind. So what I like to do is I like to try and force them into throwing another move here, save my energy, and then bring in my Jupiter. So they go for another move, we can just about live it, bring in the Jupiter, save all the energy on the seal, and then they bring in a Shadow Vulpix. Because they were a little bit slow on the swap, we can make it to the Bubble Beam before they make it to a move after 5. They do shield up the Bubble Beam, and then they're going to be able to outpace to 2 moves. I really like saving both shields for Shadow Vulpix. It's just very, very good. Once the correct Pokemon, like the ones that I've already mentioned, Slugma and so on, are gone, potentially, and I'm really not expecting them to have any of those Pokemon because they brought Vulpix in on my Jupiter. Vulpix up a shield can do a lot of damage. We can bring back in the seal, but because we only just about lived the Aqua Tail earlier on, we can't get off both of our own Aqua Tails, so they can shield up the only one we got off, and then they can go for a move. We of course have to start shielding because this would do a lot of damage. They go for the Body Slam, and then they bring back in the seal, which had an Aqua Tail stored. I'm not 100% sure where the seal is at energy-wise, but I'm pretty sure it's almost dry, so we can overfarm quite a lot. Go for the Body Slam to take out the seal. And then in the back, they have a Jupiter. And it takes the equivalent of 7 quick attacks for the Jupiter to get to a Bubble Beam. And with the Bug Bite, that Bubble Beam will be lethal, so I have to try and take it out before they get there. Go for the Weather Ball right before they get there. But it doesn't take out the Jupiter. They make it to the Bubble Beam, and although it is a terrible move, it's still enough to take out the Vulpix. And unfortunately, we lose that game. Next game, lead into a Chikorita. Very bad lead, but we have 2 good responses to it. We save swap into the Jupiter, and they're staying in. And these Bug Bites are absolutely tearing through the Chikorita. I generally like to save shields for my Vulpix. We let that go. It says the Grass Knot. It does a lot of damage, and then they bring in their own seal to farm me down. I maybe should have gone for double Bubble Beam to get off some debuffs here, but I decided to go for the Miracle instead for the damage. They do get a pretty big farm down, but all of this energy is going into Seal, and Seal absolutely walls Seal, so that is fine. They go for the Icy Wind to lower my attack, meaning now every leg, it is IV dependent when you get like an attack drop, so that every leg does less damage. Sometimes it's after 1, sometimes it's after 2, so I know that after the second one, I'm not going to be able to farm them down, because every leg would only do 1 damage from that point forward. So bring in the Vulpix, hoping I can farm down. I can't, because it takes the equivalent of 6 quick attacks for the seal to get to an Aqua Tail. So go up to 6, go for the CMP tie. They shield it up, we shield it up. In the back, it's another grass type, ABA grass. Fun team by the opponent. It takes 4 infestations for the Cradilly to get to Ancient Powers. So we can shield up this first ancient power, and then we can overfarm with wall picks, go for another weather ball into it. They shielded up the first one. This will not quite take out the Shadow Cradilly, but our switch timer is up. Theirs is not, so we can swap into the seal, do 2 more licks, go for the Aqua Tail, and this will of course take out the Shadow Cradilly, or the Shadow Lileep, I guess. I'm just not used to these small Pokemon. I'm always used to the evolved versions. They bring back in the Chikorita. They're 4 away from the Body Slam. They try to catch on the seal unsuccessfully. We get to the Icy Wind, and this will, of course, super effective, take out the Chikorita. And that is another very good game. Next game, into another seal. Can we get some redemption from last time? Hoping that they're gonna throw immediately. I go for the Aqua Tail before they make it to the Icy Wind because I want to get off some damage, but I'm not planning on staying in this matchup forever, so I don't feel the need to debuff them. So they go for the Icy Wind to debuff me, and you can clearly tell that my legs are doing... Well, I don't think this is the game actually. My legs are not doing less damage, but I try to force them into throwing another move, and then I'm gonna save all the energy, unseal, bring in the Jupiter. They try to make it to another move with the seal, but they can't, so we found them all the way down with Jupiter. They bring in a Razor Leaf, Bidoo, or no, not Bidoo, it's the other one, Oddish, goddamn. We can make it to the Mirror Coat, bait with a Bubble Beam. People like to shield their Razor Leafers, and then we make it to another Bubble Beam. This will bring them very low Oddishes, incredibly squishy in this meta. Bubble Beam does not a lot of damage, but it brings them low enough to where we can bring in the Vulpix, quick attack down the Oddish before they make it to a move. In the back, another grass type. It is an Exeggcute, but Exeggcute is very slow, so although these confusions are doing a lot, Exeggcute actually wins the 2-shield scenario. We will be able to make it to 2 weather balls as I try to get fancy and, I don't know, time my move really badly there. I don't know what I was thinking. But they take out the seal, we bring back in the Vulpix, get to the weather ball to take out the Exeggcute. That is a good game. Next game, lead into an Exeggcute, grass versus water. It's absolutely obvious. This is the seal's advantage. It takes 4 for the Exeggcute to get to its moves. So if you can, in the seal situation, you can just shield once and farm them all the way down as they go for the Seed Bomb, and then they bring in a Dugong. I don't really need switch advantage, so I just bring in Jupiter. This is generally a good matchup for Jupiter, not like an amazing matchup. They go for the Icy Wind. I think it takes 3 Icy Winds for the Jupiter to start doing 1 less damage with the Bug Bites, so I would generally say just go Aqua Tail because it's more energy efficient as we go for the Mirror Coat to bring them low. And at this point, we should be able to farm them all the way down before they can take us out. They go for another Icy Wind. Of course, we're going to come out of this matchup heavily debuffed, which is not ideal, but we farmed them all the way down, come out with a lot of energy, which doesn't really do a lot because we're debuffed and they bring in a Jupiter and nothing will do any damage here. We go for the Bubble Beam just to bring up the switch timer, bring in the Vulpix. Because of the Bubble Beam, this Bubble Beam will do less damage and we can quite comfortably let it go with Shadow Vulpix. Go for the Bubble Beam, doesn't really do a lot of damage. And then we can overfarm quite a lot. It takes 7 for the first, the equivalent of 7 quick attacks, and then 6.5, 6.5. So we can go up to the back-to-back Weather Ball. They do make it to the Bubble Beam on the CMP, so we can't get off both of them. At this point, I'm thinking that my seal probably can't take care of the entire team, so I do need to do something with my Vulpix. So we can farm up to the back-to-back Weather Ball once again, and even though these are debuffed, we can take out the Jupiter with 2 Weather Balls, go for the first one, go for the second one as well. A little bit risky going for that extra quick attack, but this Weather Ball will be able to take out the Jupiter. In the back, they still have that Exeggcute. They're dry. We have almost 2 Icy Winds stored from earlier, so we can just go for the first one. I think I could have just licked them down, but the safe play is just going for the back-to-back Icy Wind, and this second one after the first one grab the shield will of course take out the Exeggcute, and that is another very good game. Next game, lead into Vulpix. I think all the games that I edited out were against fire types as well. So if you think I had a lot of good leads in this video, I think my record was pretty skewed by the amount of good leads I had. They bring in a Jupiter, same procedure as every time. We go for the Icy Wind, then we're going to load back up to the Aqua Tail, and then we're going to bring in our own Jupiter to farm them all the way down. Go into the Jupiter. They stop attacking for a bit. Usually, so I've faced quite a few people who, I don't know if their app crashed or something like that, but it takes a long time for them to get back into the game. So I've started just continuing to attack. But if they come back like pretty much immediately, I try to let them get back the energy that they lost. Of course, it's very difficult with one-turn moves to give them the exact amount of energy. But yeah, I tried to, but we can still farm down the Dupeter, come up with a lot of energy. They bring in a Seal. They actually don't bring back in their Vulpix, which is a little bit unfortunate. Once again, just like earlier, I can get my Seal onto Vulpix, but then I'm getting my Vulpix onto their Seal. Or I can get Seal onto Seal, then Vulpix onto Vulpix. It doesn't really make much of a difference. So instead of just waiting for myself to get farmed down, I'm just gonna save the Dupeter for a potential catch, not let myself get farmed down, bring in the Vulpix on a loaded Seal, which might not look ideal, but they go for an Aqua Tail, which we have to shield. We can't go up to right before they make it to the next move. They farmed up to 1 over, if I remember correctly, before swapping out. So we can't go up to right before they make it, and they let us get to another Body Slam before they go for their own, and then they're gonna go for their own Body Slam right after, which I'm hoping will take me out, because then they don't come out with all that much energy, or they did overfarm quite a bit. They get one more quick attack in, so they should be 1 away from the next one, so we can do 1 lick, and then go for the Aqua Tail. This will, of course, take out the Vulpix, and this is gonna come down to, can we get to this Aqua Tail on the Seal? We just about can't get to the Aqua Tail, so this is gonna come down to fast moves. This Icy Wind won't make a difference. It's just gonna be Bug Bite versus Lick. Which Pokemon will take out the other? It's the Seal that gets the win, and that is another good game. Next game, final game, Dream Lead into a Litwick. They bring in a Seal, and this is a bit of an awkward situation, but we can't go for an Icy Wind because 1 Icy Wind is enough for the Licks to do 1 less damage into the Dupeter in this matchup. Because they went for the Aqua Tail, they're pretty much dry. And with them having less HP than my Dupeter, this is a very comfortable matchup for the Dupeter, so we can just bring in the Dupeter without having to throw a move with the Seal. We can also go for this Mirror Coat. I want to throw the Mirror Coat before they make it to another move, because if they get off their move, and I then try to get off the Mirror Coat and then they shield it, they might be able to farm it down, so I wanted them to make the decision first, and because they no-shield it, I can also comfortably no-shield and then farm them down. They actually don't let me farm them down. They swap out into the Litwick, saving their Seal for a potential catch later. We go for the Bubble Beam into the Litwick, then bring in the Seal as quickly as possible because my switch timer is up. Theirs is not. So we can't go for this Aqua Tail before they make it to a move. I maybe should have just taken in a move from the, what's it called? That Pokemon. But I don't. I just take it out I take out the Litwick. They have a Shadow Oddish in the back, which is an absolute pain to deal with. We can make it to 2 Weather Balls, but they can just double shield, and these Razor Leaves are going to absolutely tear through the Dewgong. But because Oddish is so squishy, we have put them into range where Licks plus Aqua Tail is enough, so just have to make sure I throw in the middle of their charge move. We do get off the Aqua Tail on the Oddish. The Seal is so low in the back, we can just farm it down, and that is another very good game. And a very, very good day overall. 5-0, 4-1, 4-1. This team worked very well. That was the last battle for today, and overall I think this is a really strong team. I did get a little bit lucky with the amount of fire types I saw in the lead, but I do think this team is very capable of playing out of some very difficult situations and bad leads. I even beat a team consisting of a Rock Throw user and a Smackdown user in the back with this team somehow. So very flexible, very good, of course very meta as well, not the most spicy. But other than that, fun fact of the day, with 4 Bug Bites advantage, Dupeter can beat both Slugma and Clauncher in the one-shield scenario. It is very close with the Slugma, but yeah, Dupeter is a very, very good save swap in this meta. Other than that, if you liked the video, remember to leave a like. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel. And of course, a massive thank you to the members of the channel. Your support is very much appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.